DeafRowe with DeafRowe Closed Caption, and I'm back again with another review. And this week is one of my favorite 80s movies called Crossroads. And no, I'm not talking about the Britney Spears Crossroads. I'm talking about the 1986 Crossroads movie starring Ralph Macchio, Joe Seneca, Jamie Gertz, just to name a few people. Before I get started on this review, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Share if you can. I appreciate that. Now let's get started on this review of the 1986 Crossroads, the best Crossroads. And we start off here with a little, well-known character. And he's played by Tim Russ, aka Tuvok. And he's playing Robert Johnson at the Crossroads. Obviously, you know the whole ordeal there with the Crossroads and all that kind of stuff. Selling your soul to the devil, or in this case, in this movie, he's called Scratch. And he meets Scratch and then sells his soul to the devil here, as you can see. He's meeting at the Crossroads right here. Let's see if I can get a better shot of this. Yeah, here we go. See, Robert Johnson at the Crossroads there. Mr. Tim Russ himself, Tuvok, from Star Trek Voyager, if you don't know who I'm talking about, plays Robert Johnson. And it's just a small part in the movie, but you know what, I had to point it out. So we move on and we meet this guy, Eugene Martone, which is played by Ralph Macchio, aka the Karate Kid. He is a music prodigy, a guitar music prodigy in this movie. And he does a lot of research on the blues. And he comes across a bunch of articles and he's trying to track down friends of Robert Johnson so he can find that 30th song. So supposedly Robert Johnson was supposed to record 30 songs. He recorded 29. And he thinks this Willie Brown character will know what that song is because he was friends with Robert Johnson. And Willie Brown's played by Joe Seneca. And you'll find him right here. Joe Seneca as Willie Brown. And at first he doesn't let Eugene Martone, talk to him or whatever. So Eugene gets like a job at the retirement center. And it's a retirement center for people who had a run-in with, the law or whatever, basically. And they're serving time, but at the same time they're getting so old that they have to be in a retirement type place. And they're, no doubt they would do anything else that could harm anybody as they gotten so old or whatever. So that's the whole idea behind where he is. And he strikes up a deal with Eugene, basically saying, hey, you get me out of here and I'll help you get that song or whatever. And Eugene thinks, oh, this is my big chance to really be into it or whatever. And of course, the whole time, Willie Brown, so he's making fun of him and he's like, yeah, you the blues man from Long Island and all this stuff. It's like, I've never heard of no blues man from Long Island. You're a little bit too far north. It just makes fun of him the whole 9 yards anyway. But it doesn't deter Eugene Martone from chasing his dream, pretty much, which is to learn this final song and become a blues man or whatever. So he agrees to help Willie Brown get out of that retirement place and go down south where Willie Brown has some unfinished business to take care of, pretty much. And that's what they do. Of course, he's a classical guitar player playing classical songs on his guitar. He's kind of a prodigy in this college that's nearby where the retirement center is. None of this Willie Brown knows, by the way. He just thinks this kid's really good at the guitar and he just wants to be a blues player. But he doesn't realize this kid can actually really play, like not just blues and rock and roll. Uh, I mean, to do classical music on a guitar is insane. Anyway, but Willie Brown doesn't know this about Eugene because Eugene kind of holds his cards close to his chest as far as his talent goes. He only shows off his blues talent, his blues playing talent on the guitar to Willie Brown. He doesn't show the rest of his talent. So keep that in mind as we get towards the end of the movie because it plays a big part. Steve Vai plays, I mean, for the most part of this movie, in the entire movie, for both Ralph Macchio's part and Steve Vai's part, he basically plays the guitar for the entire movie. So anytime you see guitars being played in this movie, even when you get to the duel towards the end, it's Steve Vai on both sides. It's, Hollywood magic there for you. Still an awesome duel at the end here. But let's get going there, shall we? So yeah, he gets the job there. Going to get them out, and of course they get a bus and make their way down to Mississippi because that's where the Crossroads is for him. And he tells them, he's like, you ain't got all the money, and they have to hobo the rest of the way because they don't have the 200 miles left to go, and they can't get down there because they ain't got no money. And he's like, I basically, and Willie Brown, he's kind of playing it off like this is part of the plan, but it really isn't. But he's playing it off like you want to be a real blues man, you got to learn to travel like a real blues man. And that's what he kind of plays it off to so he can keep the kid going. And he follows along with it. Anyway, and here in this scene, Willie Brown's trying to tell him, was like, man, you need to get rid of that old acoustic. We have electric guitars now. And then, like, he basically pawns his watch off to get this guitar and his little traveling amp that he can pin on him, like hang on his belt. And so Eugene agrees with. I mean, Eugene's just going along with everything at this point, and he's like, do what he can do to get the right sound, to learn what he can learn on the road and everything else. And yeah, you can see pawn the watch for the guitar. And then this is finally where you meet Jamie Gertz's character, Frances. She's supposed to be like a runaway, and she's run away from her parents or whatever because the stepdad or whatever is hitting her on her all the time. And so she's going to go out to California and become a dancer. Well, to make her way out there, she meets a couple of not honest guys like this dude here, basically trying to, get with her in the hotel room, and they rob him. Well, Eugene's character decides to rob him and get her out of that situation or whatever, and they steal his vehicular, and basically he didn't want to see her get hurt, and she ain't exactly innocent in the whole thing herself, but she's not making it easy for them either. So they stop off at a junkyard of sorts and hawk the car because it's hot. They basically sell it to a scrapyard that's gonna change some VIN numbers here and there. It's kind of easy to do back then. You didn't have all that electronics and stuff on the car. This is 1986, no cell phones either, so Anyway, so they shack up in this barn overnight, but that doesn't end up working out very well because the sheriff of that little town is like, yeah, we got a call, y'all just shacking up in the old man's barn, and we don't like that in this area, whatever. So all that money they made from that car, the sheriff just kind of took it from them and said, look, we're letting you go, and we didn't see no damn money. It's like, but we letting you go. So he lets them go. And of course, Willie Brown, he had a stash of money hidden in his shoe or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And so they finally get to a little small town, a little hotel, boarding room, whatever. And they decide to go in there. Well, in this little town, there's two sides of the street. One side is for the black folks, and one side's for the white folks. And of course, this stereotypical type, you know, 80s Hollywood, I guess you could say, what they think of the South. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is a literal street that one side is this side and the other side is this side. I mean, it's kind of, it's not really like that, but you get my point. Anyway, basically one side of the town is all country western and the other side of the town is blues. And Willie Brown just tells them, go on over there to the countryside. That's where you'll fit in. And of course, they don't fit in because Eugene's all about the blues stuff. And so they get into a little trouble over there because, of course, Jamie Gertz's character Francis decides to mess around with some of the idiots in there and steal the wallets. And of course, they catch on to her. And, the bartender being the even-headed one in this case, instead of letting them just fight it out and try to punish the two kids that are messing around with the folks in there, he just says, give them the wallet back and leave. Don't come back. We'll call it a night and whatever. He's like, basically, the bartender actually was pretty decent, to be honest with you. He's like, that guy right, yeah, this guy right here, Harry Carey Jr., I mean, he actually just says, like, I mean, he's an idiot, but he's got a family. He shouldn't be out here messing with you anyway. Just give him the wallet back and y'all can go. And that's kind of what Francis does, give him the wallet back and they leave. And of course, they can't go back in there. So they go over to the blues side. And of course, Willie sees him coming in and he's like, oh crap, I got to do something. So Willie Brown, he's like, all right, yeah, this is my band, whatever. He gets him up there and starts playing guitar and he starts singing a song about Willie Brown and all this other stuff. Anyway, so yeah. And of course, Eugene's all hyped up because of that and everything. And Eugene at this point has fallen in love with Francis at the same time, on all this other stuff. And Willie Brown's trying to calm him down. It's like, it ain't all hype that you think it is and all this other stuff. So you lucky that they liked us. Because if they didn't like us, it would have been a lot worse. And we wouldn't have got out of there. And then, Eugene's like I said, Willie Brown doesn't know the extent of Eugene's talent at this point still. He only sees it as this boy that just wants to play blues. He doesn't know anything else about him all that much. He just knows he goes to school to train to be a musician, but he doesn't know what type of music that he plays in school and all this other stuff. Anyway, so let's get going a little bit further. You can see my mouse there. Damn it. I have to change that later. Anyway, so he's having his nightmares and stuff about the Crossroads and what he did at the Crossroads. He kind of made what you find out is Willie Brown kind of made the same deal as Robert Johnson did. And he never got famous, though, like Robert Johnson. He ended up in a nursing home with no money, nothing. And so he wants to go back down there and fix the deal, basically, tear it up. Because they can hold up their side of the bargain or whatever. Anyway, he wakes up from the nightmare, and of course, yeah, there's Scratch's assistant that you saw, played by Joe Morton. Anyway, he wakes up and he sees Francis leaving. You're like, look, I gotta go. You guys gonna do your own thing. I can't keep dragging you guys down and getting you in trouble and all this other stuff. I love them, but I can't keep with them like this. So, Willie Brown gives her $100. It's like, look, just take this money and go about your way. This will keep you having to steal from, for a little while till you can get far enough, away that you finally make it there and not have to steal from somebody and get in trouble again. So he sends her on her way. And then that's when Eugene wakes up and asks where's Francis, and then he's basically Willie Brown. He's waiting for him to wake up, and he's basically sitting at the table. It's like, look, she's gone. She's not coming back. You're not gonna find her. I mean, you gotta remember this is time with no cell phones and all this other stuff. Ain't like he can just like text her like, "Hey, where are you at?" It ain't happening. So he basically sits him down, pours some whiskey for 2 glasses, and yeah. And after he takes a swig of the whiskey, he has him sit down with his guitar and like now play what you're feeling right now. That's the blues, and that's what you finally see Eugene coming around with his talent for the blues is getting better and better as this goes along, and it's really quite interesting actually. I mean, Willie Brown probably didn't have the intention of really teaching him all these things. It just kind of happened that way, and that's really what I kind of like about this movie. Is like he unintentionally makes this kid a really good, blues player towards the end, even though that wasn't his agenda the whole time. His agenda is to get down to the crossroads. So finally, we're getting closer to the crossroads, and Eugene's still oblivious to why he's trying to get down there. He doesn't believe any of that shit, with Robert Johnson selling the soul and all that stuff. But he's seeing Willie Brown the way he is and everything. He's starting to like second guess whether he believes it or not. Just the look on his face here, for example. He's like, he's starting to question, like, is he for real? Is he really gonna go to the crossroads and meet this guy? Whatever. So they finally get dropped off at the crossroads, and Willie Brown just tells them, just start playing, they'll show up. And they do. At first, it's Scratch's assistant, which is actor Joe Morton. And then Scratch himself, played by Robert Judd, shows up. This guy here. And he basically says, I'm not tearing up your contract. I already have you. I don't have anything. There's nothing you can give me that will make me tear up your contract. But this boy here, he can play. Now, I got me a boy that he cut heads every, he tells him the days and times, and he's cutting heads right now. And so he tells... So Eugene not taking any of this seriously. He's not really thinking this is, really the devil and all this other stuff. He's like, yeah, I'll play. You tear up his contract if I win and all this other stuff. He's like, you got a deal? And so they So they end up in this like barn or whatever, and this is where you see Steve Vai. Yeah, hold on just a second. I'm trying to find his character's name in this. Yeah, Steve Vai. The character that you see is called Jack Butler in this movie. So that's the character that Steve Vai is playing, and he playing this mean red electric guitar, and and Eugene's got this like old Fender Stratocaster that looks like it's seen better days, and he's gonna get up there and go against them pretty much. And Eugene's starting to look kind of worried. He's like, "Wait a minute, is this really real?" I was like, I'm gonna have to really do something here." So then they start rifting back and forth, and of course, it's if you've ever seen this movie before, it's really just Steve Vai playing both parts on the guitar. It's Steve Vai versus Steve Vai, basically, from what I understand. And he just taught Ralph Macchio enough of the chords to make it look plausible that he was doing the movements correctly. He made sure he got the movements down correctly, at least, to make it look on screen plausible, at least plausible that he was doing it, which is very cool in my opinion. I mean, he wanted to make this work, and it does. I mean, this entire scene, a lot of times you could just, when you look on YouTube or whatever, you find this entire scene by itself. It's iconic in my opinion. Anyway, so they going back and forth, and of course, it gets to a point where Steve Vai's character, Jack Butler, he's ramping it up, ramping it up, ramping it up, and he ramps it up to a point that he thinks he wins. And even Willie Brown, he's starting to think, oh shit, I got this boy in trouble. What am I going to do? And he's kind of got his head down low and all this stuff. But then all of a sudden, Eugene just comes out of nowhere. Yeah, right here, he gets his head down or whatever, right? Hold on. Let's go back. It's just here. Yeah, you see Willie Brown's got his head down a little bit, and then all of a sudden, Eugene just comes out of nowhere with this classical music, this music playing, right? And he's going so fast that everybody is like, "What the hell?" And he's doing this number here, like, and he's like, "Oh shit," you know. And it's a pretty cool scene. I mean, I have to be honest with you. It's one of the coolest guitar scenes in a movie ever. It's, you know, Steve Vai made it happen. You know, kudos to him. And so he ends up Steve Vai's character Jack Butler. He's trying to do the same movements or whatever on his guitar, and he can't quite get that last in there, and he keeps screwing it up. And of course, he loses. And Scratch has to tear up the contract. Let's see if I can get right here. I think, yeah, towards the end here. Yeah, he pretty much loses. And old Scratch, he's like, son of a bitch, he lost. And had to walk off stage. And that's when Scratch gets up. And if you didn't think anything was real before, that's when you see this part right here. It finally kind of, there you go, tears up the contract. And that pretty much ends the movie right there. And they're back at the Crossroads talking to each other what they're gonna do next. Eugene is on a high, I'm telling you, and Willie Brown thinks the most of him now because, you know, he didn't realize how much talent the kid really had. But then also the kid saved his soul. If you believe in, you know, the whole thing with Robert Johnson and everything else, he made the same deal. The kid saved his soul towards the end of his life as well. So now, awesome movie. Period. And that's just the way I look at it. In my opinion, this is a 4-star movie for me. Not a high 4-star, but kind of a, mid-grade 4-star. So probably like it's going to be in the most excellent bracket for me on the critic list, probably around like a 85%, 84%, somewhere around there. But like I said, I figured I would review this movie because Ralph Macchio's in it, and I actually like this movie. Probably people will think I'm crazy, but I actually like this movie more than I like Karate Kid, to be honest with you. And now that the last season of Cobra Kai is fixing to come out, I figured I'd do a Ralph Macchio movie that not a lot of people might know about. So here it is. 1986, Crossroads. Awesome movie. Go watch it. And that is DeafRowe